Welcome to the sideline. I'm Justin Parham, and she's Elaine Barkley. Major League Baseball may be considered a dirty game, but whenever a player steps into the batter's box, they want to make sure, in the words of Outkast, their cleats are so fresh and so clean. Athletic trainer Richard Keats credits the decrease in injuries to the variance of lifts performed in the weight room. For many, it's hard to believe that 50 years after John Carlos and Tommy Smith raised their fist in protest, the conversation around race continues. For Warren Clark Atlanta University athlete, senior night means more than just her final game.
Nicole Graham is the niece of Cynthia Graham Hurd, whom along with 9 others was murdered in the Charleston Church Massacre. On senior night, Graham received the number 9 jersey in remembrance of the victims.
I wanted to follow in my aunt's footsteps as she passed and come to Clark and do the same thing that she did and finish my eligibility and leave my legacy here at this university. I feel like it's important that I don't focus on just my aunt and I focus on the other 8 families as well. Losing somebody because of the color of their skin that's close to you is always tough. So I feel that I shouldn't just focus on my aunt, and I should honor everybody and leaving my legacy here, because that's what she would want. And you hear stories about that all the time on the news, but for it to be your own, it's a different feeling. I was kind of in shock until about after the funeral, and that's when it really hit me because of the news and the media, but it was just disbelief for the first couple of weeks. Everything I'm doing right now is strictly for her.
Bigger, faster, stronger are often the words you associate with the weight training program, but the staff at Red Mountain High School is taking a different approach.
A lot of the focus of strength training now is not only on building up athletes, but also injury prevention.
Safety is #1 priority. We want to be strong, we want to be fast, we want to jump higher, making sure each kid safety isn't short.
With high school athletes accounting for an estimated 2 million injuries a year, Red Mountain made injury prevention a priority, and Red Mountain's athletic trainer and players noticed a decrease in injuries.
This year has been much better than last year. Last year we had 19 ACL tears, all non-contact. This year we've only had 3.
There are plenty of times in the middle of the game where I should have messed up my knee, my ankle, something really badly at least one point every game. But due to the workouts Brandau puts us through, all the injury prevention stuff, it really does help us a lot. And it's honestly, I can say my season stayed alive just because of those.
Red Mountain athletic trainer Richard Keats credits the decrease in injuries to the variance of lifts performed in the weight room.
Changing the way we lift. We've gone from doing all exclusively back squat to now we're doing mostly front squat and a little bit of back squat.
In addition to preventing injuries, Red Mountain is also educating students on how to prevent injuries. With more than 17% of children in the U.S. battling obesity, Red Mountain is also motivating students to lead healthier lives.
We have a full-time sports medicine trainer who teaches sports medicine classes throughout the day for high school students that may be interested in entering that field. And there's an internship component to that, so they work with teams.
So being able to show up every day and work hard with a great coach helps me to be oriented both in the weightlifting mindset and outside of school, being able to watch my weight. Recently, I just came back from being a little more overweight, and weightlifting to me has just been this huge improvement. Just lifestyle I live now to where I can eat better and lift weights. Just a huge impact to help me just physically and mentally.
With so many healthy athletes, Red Mountain has found ways to grow their physical education department.
We have a very large and robust PE department. You look across the country with budget concerns with public education. There's been many high schools, not just in Arizona, but across the country, that have had to downsize their PE departments. In the past 4 years, our PE department has grown.
We have 3 facilities, 3 different sizes. We push close to 1,200 kids through the weight room.
I'd say it's definitely one of the best in Mesa, maybe Arizona in general. I'd say it's been the best weight room I've ever been in, and it's just the energy in there, the way the camaraderie is, and everyone just yelling at each other to get it done. Everyone just starting to get pumped, and the electricity in the air is it's amazing.
From Mesa, with the sideline, I'm Justin Parham.
At the Phoenix Art Museum, people gathered to remember an event that took place 50 years ago. In the 1968 Summer Olympic Games in Mexico City, John Carlos and Tommy Smith took off their shoes in protest of poverty, wore beads in protest of lynchings, and raised their fist in a Black Power salute as they stood on the podium. In 2016, Colin Kaepernick decided to take a knee in protest of police brutality and racial injustice. Despite almost 5 decades separating these events, there are a lot of similarities, including the belief that their message was misinterpreted.
They changed the scenario from the Olympic Project for Human Rights and made it a Black Power movement. Just like Mr. Kaepernick said, I'm concerned about police brutality. They changed the scenario on that. Said he's unpatriotic, he's against the flag, he's against the military.
After their display at the Olympics, Carlos and Smith were ordered to leave the games. Although they were able to keep their medals, the sprinters were suspended from the USA track team and received death threats. Fast forward to today, Kaepernick and other NFL players receive criticism from fans and scrutiny from politicians.
I think that the flag has to be respected, our country has to be respected. There's plenty of room to do other things, but our country has to be respected.
But just as other NFL players have decided to take a knee in support of Kaepernick, Carlos and Smith were not the only ones protesting at the '68 Olympics. Wyoming Tyus, a 3-time Olympic gold medalist, supported Carlos and Smith with a protest of her own in support of people of color and women.
I wore black shorts throughout the Olympic Games. That was my protest. We go and win these medals. They put us up on the pedestal. Oh, look, they did for the USA. And we come back. We have no rights. After winning the gold medal in the relay, I dedicated my medal to Tommy and Carlos for what they did on their victory stand.
We made a statement at that time because we wanted to be that beacon for society. So what God made us was the blueprint. We were the gardeners, the horticulturists that till the earth and plant the seeds. And you sit back and you hear about Mr. Kaepernick or young individuals. Well, they're the fruits of our labor. The same admiration they have for me, I had for Jack Johnson, I had for Paul Robeson, I had for Harriet Tubman, I had for Nat Turner, I had for all of them. Because they had to go through the same divide that we went through.
For many, it's hard to believe that 50 years after John Carlos and Tommy Smith raised their fist in protest, the conversation around race continues.
I gave a lecture before about 450 largely white Americans. And I asked them, how many of you feel somewhat uncomfortable, or a great deal uncomfortable about athletes taking a knee? And about 3/4 of the hands went up. Then I asked them, how many of you would trade places with African Americans? Not a single hand went up. So they understand the message. They simply refuse to deal with it because it is so tied up with their identity, their privilege, and their power. And they don't want to discuss that.
All the participants agreed that even though great strides have been made to repair race relations in the United States, there's still work that must be done. Deion Sanders once said, "If you look good, you feel good. And if you feel good, you play good." For the White Sox, Robert Warren is in charge of making sure the team looks good. For some of the guys, that may mean a lot of hats.
They'll try on, 6 or 12 hats just to find the one that fits and looks the best. We'll literally give the guy a box of hats to try on so he can find the exact one that fits the best and looks the best and feels the best on him.
As older guys start to retire and younger guys come in, you start to see some changes in the clubhouse.
Especially with the younger generation, you get a lot more guys that kind of have that mentality with like the new shoes or special arm sleeves, or it's different than what it was 10 years ago. It is more of a look good, feel good type of thing.
I think you got to feel good. It kind of gives you a little bit of confidence, a little swagger as you go down the field. If you don't feel good, you're not going to play good. I don't think it's kind of go hand in hand.
Major League Baseball may be considered a dirty game, but whenever a player steps into the batter's box, they want to make sure, in the words of Outkast, their cleats are so fresh and so clean.
I always like taking a shower before I go back out for the games, and clean uniform, clean cleats. I think that's, you'd think it would be something that, goes without saying, but those are important.
For the guys with the most swag, looking good doesn't just apply to the baseball field.
I know Mason Robbins, he showed up one day, he's got cowboy boots, he had the big 10-gallon hat on, so if you're going for that look, he's got that one down. I like to think myself, I show up, I take pride in what I wear to the field, so
There's a handful of them out there that are more, you know, swag than the other guys.
With a long season ahead of them, it may be safe for the White Sox to say, no one on the diamond has swagger like us. From Gilbert with Cronkite Sports, I'm Justin Parham.
And this is The Sideline.